What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome to Jets Today, episode 49. We're almost halfway to 100 episodes. Got James Wighaus with me again. It's good to see you, James. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How you doing, John?
Doing good. We got a dog, and so there's that. And I'm waking up now, enjoying the morning sunrise, walking the dog. So I've got like a wackadoo schedule right now, but I really can't complain, man. Everything's good, and we are so close now, 18 days away from the NFL draft, which is what people
Yeah.
really want to talk about. That is the hot topic, as it should be, though, because this is like the we're reaching the fever pitch at this point now with,
hmm
speculation, rumors. Where do we really like at this point now? We have to kind of finalize our final takes on what we really think is going to happen on draft day. Like no more BS. You can't just spit out a million scenarios, which I've been doing all off season. We have to kind of finalize what we really believe is going to happen. So we'll be doing that tonight. And for everybody that's joining us now and coming in after we start, I want to thank you for joining us, and we're very excited to go through all the topics that we have. But leave us comments, and we will do our best to get to those. I am doing a giveaway for the NFL draft. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and do that. And I'm giving away a free jersey to one of the subscribers to the channel. So give yourself a shot and support the channel all at the same time. And let's just get right into it. We're not going to waste any time. I'll read a couple of comments and then we'll get to the mailbag. We have like six mailbags tonight,
Cool.
and they're pretty interesting actually. They're kind of all over the place, which I really like. So the very first one is from Big Al, and thank you for joining us, Big Al. He says, I just read on Jet Nation from the reporter Pauline. I think he's talking about Tony Pauline.
Mhm.
And he says that JD is in love with Trevor Penning and that picking him at number 10 is a real possibility. Let's do it. What do you think, James? Any thoughts on that potential rumor or possibility?
Yeah, I think that would be a mistake. I think that, yeah, yeah. I listen. I mean, offensive line altogether. Yeah, sure. Like I'm not in that camp, and I don't think I'm going to be in that camp. Talking about finalizing takes, I think that's where I'm at with offensive tackle, especially with 4 and 10. They want to find someone down the road later on. That's fine. But I think Trevor Penning at 10 would be a mistake. I think he's subject to, so he's got that nasty label, right? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the clips that circulate through Twitter of him tossing guys around, even if tossing guys around meant throwing defensive linemen into his quarterback's legs.
Yeah.
And listen, and he's a good player. I don't think he's a top 10 worthy player at a position that I don't think we need to really worry about in the top 10. So I think it would be a mistake at 10 to take him.
Cool deal. And I did see that same report, Big Al. I thought it was worth mentioning
Mhm.
and talking about it. So I'm glad you stuck that in the comments. I personally would not take him at number 10. I'm okay with taking offensive linemen in a scenario where we trade back or trade up from the second round. But ideally, we're going in the mid rounds. I've been preaching that all off season, and I really am pretty comfortable doing that, especially after the Lake and Tomlinson signing. I just feel like the starting unit is set. We just need to get those developmental pieces for the future and for the depth purposes. But again, thank you for the comment, Willem. And if I'm saying your name wrong, I do apologize. He says the dream, KT and Sauce at 10. That is probably music to our ears. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight as far as like scenarios,
Mhm.
where we're at right now, because we are getting awfully close. Straight 100s checking in. He says, what's up? Kev Chada, happy to report that the dog, it's weird. So we've had a couple of dogs, my wife and I, and we've had the biggest struggle has been potty training. But
Mhm.
this dog, it's incredible. She hasn't had an accident, and she goes outside, does a remarkably good job with going to the potty. Her thing right now is chewing. She is a
Mm.
she is a chew fiend, and we're giving her as much crap as we can. And basically, when she starts to get real chewy, we just give her we want her to chew
Right.
on. But nice of you to ask, Kev Chatta. This is a very friendly community we have here. Asking about my dog, how it's doing. Appreciate that. Eddie De Jesus, thank you very much. He says, smash that like button. Stephen Engel, he says, as soon as Jody went up to Penning at the Senior Bowl, I was like, oh shit. I do think that there is some credence to the fact that Joe Douglas probably does like him, right? Like
Mm.
maybe we
Oh yeah.
don't take him at 10, but there is something to be said about, Joe Douglas and offensive lineman. I think he just has an affinity for the position. So, all right, let's see. Let's see. I am drinking a beer tonight. Don't worry, I'll be okay. One beer, I'll be just comfortable. Jin Pak says that Pauline does not know the Jets. Smokestack, another question. He says, who is our right tackle? Becton is still a question mark, and Fant should not be moved from left tackle. James, you can go first. What do you think?
I think Fant's going to be the right tackle. I really do. I think Mackay is going to step in. He'll play the left tackle spot, and they'll move Fant to right tackle. He can play there. It's nothing he's not accustomed to. I mean, he had a great year at left tackle, and Mackay has played right tackle before. I think it early on though in his Louisville career.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're gonna see Mackay at left tackle, and we'll see Fant at right tackle. That's my prediction.
Certainly he could win that job, right? Like if he just is
Yeah.
utterly dominant in training camp and preseason, he really just kicks a lot of ass. I could see the Jets doing exactly what you're saying.
Mm.
Having said that, I think they might like to actually keep him. So we'll have a disagreement here for one of the few times. I'm gonna actually say that they will keep him at right tackle because I think that even though Fant is he's on the last year of his deal, I think
Hmm.
the Jets might like the idea of keeping Fant at left tackle, which he was significantly better at. When he played at left tackle, he was better at that spot. But certainly the case could be made that Becton will win that spot back, and I'd be happy for him. I think that would be fantastic. And we have a couple of
Hmm.
mailbags, of course, about Becton. There's a lot of people asking questions about Becton, and our very own Jason Rhodes. He says Becton is gone. Come on.
No.
Sean Bennett, an OG to the channel. He hasn't been around. I saw him on Facebook and he messaged me and he's back here on one of our live streams and he says, seems like most Jets fans are on this Sauce hype train. I believe it would be a bad pick for us at 4. They might not do it. And I keep saying that. Like I would like them to take him at 4, and I would like them to consider it if Kayvon Thibodeau's not there. But I don't
Hmm.
actually think they're going to pull the trigger. I don't think that the Jets will draft Sauce Gardner at 4. We know where your head's at. It's similar to mine. Do you think that the Jets won't? I mean, are you in the same mindset that the Jets won't and ultimately end up doing it?
I do think there is an aspect of they may not just value the position that high at 4, where they're going to have a fight over the trenches. I'm in the same camp as you with Kayvon at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then if he's not there, I'd love for Sauce to be the pick because at that point, then if Sauce isn't the pick at 4, Kayvon's gone. You're probably looking at Jermaine Johnson or Ikem Ekwonu at 4 because I think they're going to have a trenches discussion, and it's either going to be offensive line or defensive line. And I think at that point, at 4, Judge. I was just watching the Yankee game.
Yeah,
Um,
that's okay.
um, Joe Douglas may win his argument with maybe Ikem at 4. I'm not really sure how they're going to work that out. Only it's just a value for me. Like at 4, you have to hit a home run, and it can't just be, oh, we feel okay at corner, so we're going to pass on the guy who could potentially be a shutdown corner in this league for a long time. You have to hit a home run at that pick, and he's worth everything for that pick. So that's just where my head is at, where I get the fans say we don't need it, but he would definitely transcend our secondary, no doubt about it. And so I think at 4, you can't just mess around and be like, well, we're not going to take the elite player. We're going to take the semi, elite player that can be really good at 4 just because it's a position of greater need. Like, I'm not in that camp of force and need at number 4 overall.
I agree. And it's okay if you guys disagree. Franco right here, he says that he disagrees on Sauce. This defense does not need a shutdown cornerback to be successful. And he's not completely wrong. I remember when the Giants won the Super Bowl versus the Patriots years ago. I mean, they were known for having an awesome pass rush, and their secondary wasn't bad, but they weren't really led by like any stalwarts in that secondary. So I do get the counter argument. I think what you said is true. I think he can be a shutdown corner, and I think that if you pair that with an edge rusher that you really like in the draft, you're cooking, man. You're cooking. That's exactly what you want. You want that guy that can go ahead and match up really well with any wide receiver that's going against him, and you get that ferocious pass rush going. You are in business in defense. You're going to be creating turnovers. You're going to get a lot of negative plays. So I'm with you. I think it should be on the table, if nothing else. Big Al, this is not a 6-pack. I know it looks like it, but this is really just one beer. And the mug is pretty cool. It says no idea, and it's Jets logo. So, all right. There's a lot of you already loading up the comments, tons of questions. I cannot possibly read all of them, but I really do. I love all of these comments here. They're really good. We'll go to Mike Holiday, and then we'll move on to the mailbag here. So Mike Holiday, thanks for the comment and the question. He says 4. He's talking about number 4 and we don't have 37, but we do have 38. He's asking, would you pair up 4 and 38 to maybe trade up to go get Hutch? Thoughts? This is a tricky one.
I'd be fine with that. It's so weird because I think we talked about this last time we were on. Is he going to go first overall? In order to get him, do we need to trade for the first overall pick? I would probably say yes. If you absolutely want him and don't want the Jaguars to pick him one, if you say, hey, listen, we're all in on Hutch, we have to trade up to number 1, you're giving up a lot more than, the 38th pick or the 35th pick. I'm good with that. If someone was like, hey, Hutch is there at number 2, all it's going to take is number 38 to get up to number 2. I'd sign up for that for Hutch, no doubt about it. I just think in my mind, it may take quite a bit more to get him if we're going to have to move up.
Yeah, I am open to getting a blue chip pass rusher. And I think we even had that conversation. If you said it already, I do apologize. I remember very early in the offseason, we talked about, would you be willing to make a move like that to go get Kayvon Thibodeau? And I think I'll stand on what we talked about. I say yes. If the Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are convinced that he is the guy at the edge position and will be a dominant player, it's a very big cost because you're giving up a 2nd-round pick and not really getting anything back for it. I say do it though, because then you can play the game of your number 10 overall pick. You can move back a little bit, accumulate, and recoup. So I am down for that. Last comment. This is outrageous. Unless you're talking about somebody else. I am not 21 years old, Jim Pog. I am 37, my man. But if you're just trying to be nice, I appreciate that. All right, let's go to the mailbag. The mailbag number 1. This is from Matt Baum, which, by the way, greatest last name ever, right? Matt Baum. He says
spelled awesome too.
Yeah, the silent H, man. All right, so he says the Jets have pick 4 and number 10. He says, which group would you rather have? Would you rather have KT and Garrett Wilson, or would you rather have Sauce and Drake London? I love these types of questions. I think it's really easy to answer this one. What about you, James? You can go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna go KT and Garrett Wilson. So I'm gonna go with the edge rusher. And listen, everyone kind of knows my love for Sauce and stuff like that, but I'm not oblivious to like the importance of the pass rusher. And I don't buy, for some reason, it could just be blindly believing, but I'm just not in with what I hear about Kayvon Thibodeau. Sure, I mean, there's probably some plays that you could pick out where he's not giving 100%. You could do it for anybody. You could do it for everybody. That stuff kind of happens. And the whole thing about him trying to market his brand, and is that like an effect? Like, listen, we're in a new generation of athletes. These guys have platforms that a lot of guys didn't have, back in the day. And if those guys had the opportunity to make it, a brand for themselves like these guys have, we would have had that done a long time ago. But it's a new age. Aiden Hutchinson has his own podcast with Pro Football Focus now. I'm pretty positive, not Pro Football Focus.
Doesn't matter. I hear what you're saying.
Whoever it is, but I mean, he's got his own. You don't hear from him, so I don't get it. I think he's an elite edge prospect, so I'm going to go with him at 4 if he's part of the option. Because between Garrett Wilson and Drake London, I think they'd both be a great fit. Both very high on my wide receiver list, but Garrett Wilson, I still have him as number 1. So I would get an edge in that situation, and then my best wide receiver in the draft.
Yeah, it's simple as pie. I'm going KT and Garrett Wilson all day, every day. And I know that I've had my wide receiver takes all over the place all off season. I know that I've sang the song of almost all of them at this point, but I really do feel like of all of the the position groups, I feel like tight end and wide receiver, there are some really good players all over the place. And so I don't feel guilty for it. Having a crush on Jameson Williams one week, and then you're really feeling good about Garrett Wilson and his fit for this offense and for the need that we have. So it's KT and Garrett Wilson by a mile. And thank you to Matt Baum for the question. And let's see, HD Marino, who has appeared on the Jets Today show. He says, give me Olave and Carl Loftus, trade back from 4. I'm going to do it. Olave is really, really intriguing. He is one of the players that the Jets have brought in for a visit, and that is one of the topics for tonight. Very, very attractive option for wide receiver. Yep. Would be incredible good. It would be a very good fit scheme-wise for what we want to do. Jaime, I'm agreeing with you. I do think that Jameson Williams, barring a recovery, which I expect him to do, I think he's the best wide receiver as well. Some people are worried about the injury, and I can understand why. But I think that it's something that he can recover from. He's already, doing some working out. So I feel pretty confident that he's going to be A-okay. All right, mailbag number 2. That is the wrong button I just pushed. Let's try that again. There we go. This is from Straight 100 Jets. He says, if Hutchinson or Thibodeau are gone before 4, which of the second-tier edges would you want the Jets to draft at number 10? Trayvon Walker, Jermaine Johnson, or George Karlaftis? You could even maybe change that question to which second-tier edge would you consider at 4 or 10? Because I know some people would still go with, I know some people would still go with the edge at 4. I would prefer to wait on the edge until 10 if KT and Hutch are gone. But what do you say? I'll listen to you first.
Yeah, I'll rank them. So I would go Jermaine Johnson would be 1 on that list. George Karlaftis is 2, and then I'm going Trayvon Walker at 3. I'm just not on board with Trayvon Walker. I'm sorry, I'm just not there. The workout warrior type thing. He's an incredible athlete. Nothing against him. And I'm sure he'll be a fine player, but he's a project. I think he's a project. That's just what it is. And I think there are some more polished edge rushers there that can create potentially a more immediate impact, whether, I don't know, maybe his ceiling is higher, but Jets can't be betting on ceiling at this point in time. They need someone who's going to come in, and kind of make an impact right away. And I think Jermaine Johnson and George Karlaftis have that over Trayvon Walker. So he'd be down on my list, but I'd put Jermaine Johnson at the top of that list for sure.
I'm glad we disagreed early in the show because now it proves that we're not just phonies. I kind of agree with you here. There does seem to be a larger number of people that are against Trayvon Walker in the last week or so. People are not into it. And everything that I'm hearing, from people that actually have insider, sources, they're saying Trayvon Walker is like a lock for the top 5, which I find to be unbelievable. And again, that's kind of the thing. These NFL general managers really they have the balls, man. They are not afraid to take a swing at a guy that they feel like has that really, really high ceiling, even if there is that, that low floor as well. I think that's the case with Trayvon Walker. So yeah, to me, Jermaine Johnson is the easy fallback choice. He's certainly one of my favorite edge rushers in the class, but I like other guys too. But yeah, if we're answering the question, I would say JJ at 10 is like a slam dunk. If he's available and we don't take an edge at 4, I'm all for that. I think that would be outstanding. All right, we do have a super chat, and I'm going to get to that right now if I can get myself straightened out. It's from Daniel Faust, and Daniel Faust has a pretty cool question. He says, would you like Frankie from Flatbush on your show? I like both of you. Listen, man, it's been collaboration central on my on the channel, and that is absolutely something I'd be open to. You can go ahead and tell him I said so. I'll reach out to him at some point, but probably going to be after the NFL draft at this point. I have Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7 coming on this Wednesday. Jake Asman had to reschedule. He couldn't do this past Wednesday, and so we're going to have to work him in. But long story short, Daniel Foss, the answer is yes. And I would love to have him on for sure. So thank you for the super chat. Thanks for the support. And definitely we'll work on that for you. I really appreciate you submitting the super chat. All right, let's keep it going here. This is a longer one. I'll read through it pretty quickly here. It's similar, but not exactly. So he says, if Hutch and Tibbs are gone and JD doesn't believe in the remaining edges, could the Jets plan to take Sauce and Jordan Davis in the first round? He says on pass downs, you would have Martin and Huff, JFM. You could have Williams and Thomas. And he's talking about Quinnen Williams and Solomon Thomas. Lawson would then be on rundowns. He could go JFM, Davis, Williams. He gives all the different sub packages, I guess, if you will, or the rotation. Let's just answer the top question. Would you consider taking Sauce and Jordan Davis in the first round?
I'm going to take Sauce, but I'm not going to be taking Jordan Davis. It's just not there. It's not there for me. I get it. He's a phenomenally dominant type of figure there, but I just don't think it's the right move for the Jets at 10. I do think if they definitely need to address the interior defensive line. I don't think Jordan Davis at 10 is the way to go about that. And we'll talk about visits and things like that later on. But he's got a teammate. Jordan Davis has a teammate named Devontae Wyatt, who is quite a player as well, and someone who could potentially be there at a spot like 35, the Perion Winfreys of the world. Those guys are going to be there in the second round. I just don't think at this juncture, at this stage of the rebuild, I guess we'll call it, Jordan Davis at 10 is going to be something that is beneficial to the Jets and their more immediate success, and specifically Zach Wilson. I think if you don't have Hutch in there and KT at 4, you're looking at an edge. You're looking at some kind of defensive player at 4. It's probably going to be Sauce at that point in time, and then at 10. Jermaine Johnson or wide receiver type of prospect. So I wouldn't go Jordan Davis at 10.
Yeah, short and sweet. I wouldn't do Jordan Davis either. Like you said, he's a hell of a prospect. Just not something I feel comfortable doing with the current structure, the way the team is built right now. We need to pay Quinnen Williams soon, hopefully. I'm hoping that he earns that contract from us. And I really do I would prefer to get guys on the cheap at that position. I'm not saying that it's not an important position, but I just feel like at some point you have to skimp somewhere, right? Like I would rather get some guys in the draft that can play on the interior of the defensive line, mid to late rounds. We did just draft Jonathan Marshall. I feel like nobody talks about this guy for some reason, and I feel like they drafted him and they kept him. Let's see what he has. Let's get him out on the field. There's no reason to not have him be a part of the rotation if he's earned it. And, we'll see, man. I think that we need to keep our eyes out as well post-draft and also post-June cuts. We can fill in some of these other positions on the cheap.
Yeah.
We found Morgan Moses on a really cheap contract. You know, I think it's a very doable thing to find another defensive tackle. Just that's just my personal preference on that one. So,
Yeah.
all right.
And like, sorry, just a really quick point. Like you kind of try to, I try to look at like past history too, right? Like in a sense, there are positions, and I guess every position you can technically look at history and say, oh, well, they got that guy at that time, that round, that late round, whatever. But, I mean, defensive tackle, you look at where I don't think Snacks Harrison was drafted. Jets had a pretty good there. Foley, Fadukasi, we got really late, and I know he's not here anymore, but he made a big impact for us while he was here. And then you look at like the Giants when they drafted Daniel Jones 6th overall. That was they decided they were going to take a quarterback 6th overall and then trade Odell Beckham Jr., who would have been the biggest weapon that he would have had at the quarterback spot. They get a first round pick for him, and they pick Dexter Lawrence with that pick. And Dexter Lawrence is a fine player for them. He's very good on the defensive line. But what's the problem with the Giants? They can't protect Daniel Jones, and so you trade an asset, a big time weapon for a quarterback for an asset, and make it into a defensive tackle. It hasn't worked out for them. They're still searching for weapons and offensive linemen, and that would have been a perfect time to surround your quarterback with someone that could have really helped him at that point in time.
And to move on from the defensive tackle position, this is a good point to make by Grant Root. He's saying if you want somebody that can really get in the rotation early, he says you're probably going to need to get somebody in before the 3rd round. I do not hate the idea. I'm pretty flexible with those 2nd round picks. Depending on what they do in the 1st round, I'm actually okay with getting pretty much anything. Like if they want to go offensive line, if they want to go interior defensive line, if they want to get a safety, have the flip at it. Go crazy in the 2nd round. Get the best players that you feel like can make big plays. And if it's a defensive tackle, I don't give a flying you know what. Go get good players in the 2nd round. That's just my personal preference. All right, let's keep it moving here. We've got another mailbag, and it's Mekhi Becton time on the Jets Today live stream. So this is from PC, and he said, and this is an interesting question. This is not a bad question. He says, is Mekhi Becton making a mistake, a commonly warned against mistake, by publicly engaging the negativity on Twitter? And what he means by that is that Mekhi Becton typically responds to the negative tweets. Like he does occasionally respond to the positive stuff, but all in all, most of the time, he's like quote tweeting the people that are really hating on him. I have a very clear answer on this. I do want to hear what you have to say. What do you think about this? Is it a mistake for Mekhi Becton to engage with the negativity on Twitter?
To a degree, yes. Because listen, I mean, there's going to be those people for the rest of his career, whether he turns into an all-pro or not. Though he's going to be able to find those comments on Twitter. And so, I mean, for me personally, if I was him, I wouldn't pay attention to it. You just move along. Don't let it consume your thought, your mind, because that negativity is always going to be there. And if you're looking for it, you're always going to find it. I just think it's wasted energy. And so, listen, if there's something that he feels like he has to address every so often, fine, that's cool. But if he makes it such like a common thing that it's an everyday, oh, there's Mekhi again. And then, all right, Mekhi now changed his Twitter name and now he's answering this person. It becomes something where you don't want him to take up his energy doing that, because that's always going to be there. But I do think it's a mistake to a degree. If it just keeps going, I think at some point he's just going to kind of have to let it go, and kind of move on from it, because in his career, there's going to be those people for the rest of time.
You're right about that. Haters are never going away. Before I give you my answer, guys, go ahead and hit that like button. We're creeping up on 100 people. Hit the like button for us. Support the stream. Support the channel. Would greatly appreciate that. So my answer is a little bit convoluted here, but basically, I'm okay with it. And there's a real short reason why. People are motivated by different things in life. And I feel like who am I to say like he shouldn't do it? Uh, it's really his prerogative. It's whatever he wants to do. And some people are just motivated in weird ways. Like I'm not saying that's a weird way to be motivated, but like back in college when I would go to the gym and I love working out. It's like one of my favorite hobbies that I don't really get to do as much as I used to. And I would go lift hard for like 45 minutes, hour, and then I would get on the bike. And in my mind, I would say, okay, which assholes are on the bike? I'd look around. And then I would say, okay, I can't get off this bike until at least two people around me get off the bike.
Mm.
And it's like a stupid thing, but like it would motivate me to
Yeah,
like not get off too quick. Do you know what I'm saying? Like so
sure.
it was weird for me to do that, but it helped me and it motivated me to keep going. And so for Becton, why not, dude? If it fires him up, and that's the other thing. Like I have a feeling that this guy is just so angry right now. And that's the
Yeah.
part that really excites me about Becton coming into this year. I think he is angry.
Hmm.
And he wore his big bust. He's not the big ticket anymore. He's the big bust. He
Yeah.
wore his big bust hoodie in the gym the other day. I get it. There are people that do not like Mekhi Becton doing this stuff, and if that's your take, all respect. No big deal. I understand. But if it's what motivates him, I say go for it and don't worry about the noise. All right. Um, Sean Bennett he's back and he's got some hot takes about Becton. He says I would trade Becton for a third rounder and bounce. No way, Sean. No. Even if you feel like he could bottom out here, it's way more worth the risk keeping him. Pro Bowl, almost Pro Bowler in his rookie season. Don't forget that. You can feel however you want about him, and if you feel like they need to get rid of him, that's fine. But it would be a massive risk getting rid of him this soon. We haven't
Hmm.
seen him play since his rookie year, really. And I'm willing to take the risk. If you ask me, I think that the talent is way too high. All right, let's move along here. Good stuff. Let's go to Becton again, and this is from Jordan. Excuse me, from Jason Rhodes, and he says, "Okay, if the Jets believe that Becton is moving to right tackle, then trade him. Cincy for their 31st overall pick and maybe a fourth next year." He says you could draft a right tackle like Smith or Lucas in the third round. For one, that will reset the rookie contract and save money in the long run, not paying Becton left tackle money to play right tackle. He says, two, you could package 31 and 38 to move up into the first round, maybe even as far as 20. And he says, we wouldn't draft Neal, Ikem, or Cross with that 10th pick. So he says it makes no sense to keep Becton if he's not going to play left tackle. What do you say, James?
That's a draft is still 18 days away type of question. It's a it there's a that would be a lot of moving pieces there. And I feel like it's semi simple with Mackay. It's and you kind of alluded to it before. He was a dominant player when he was healthy playing for the Jets, and we've only seen it his rookie year, and that was it. And you kind of alluded to that part, and then going into this past year, the ESPN did their rankings of offensive tackles in the entire NFL. They had Mekhi Becton as the sixth best offensive tackle in the NFL, and that those are, I get it, sometimes they're not all experts and things like that, but Brian Baldinger there thinks Mekhi Becton is pretty great in his own right as well, and he kind of knows what he's talking about there, and it's not worth it to do all those moving parts to then just try to replace the guy because you just think you're replacing a guy with someone better, and that guy may not work out. That's the hard part about the draft process is like we're talking about all of these players because all of them are rightfully in their place as being talked about as a top first round pick, a second round pick. They're not all going to work out. that's just the fact. That's just the fact of the matter. Someone in this list that we're talking about is just going to not pan out whatsoever. And that could very well be something happens. So if you flip it on its head and you say, hey, we flipped Mekhi Becton for pick 31, he's an all pro with the Cincinnati Bengals. And now we took, I don't know, let's just say Evan Neal. We took Evan Neal at 4 to replace the guy we traded for the 31st pick. Now Evan Neal is struggling to play right tackle. He's struggling to play left tackle, whatever it is. What do you do at that point? You just now set back you could have, not that you set back the entire franchise, but you're setting yourself up to just fill a hole that you already had filled in the first place. And so I'm not willing to take the risk of just giving up Mekhi Becton, because I think all of these draft prospects are so good. I could just plug him in with a 3rd round, a 2nd round pick, and it's going to be all dandy. I'm just not there with that.
Yep. No disrespect, Jason Rhodes. You're not the only person that wants to trade Becton. I just think it's too daggone early. I'm not I'm not comfortable doing it yet. And I understand that we potentially lose value if it doesn't work out. But again, I'm still willing to take that risk over trading him away and him becoming, like you said, James, an all pro for Cincinnati or whoever else. This is an interesting comment from Grant Rude, and we'll move on to the last mailbag after this. He says, if Becton is great, good, decent, or bad, he's not going to re-up with the Jets when his rookie contract is done. He clearly doesn't like the fan base. I don't blame him. I'm going to respectfully disagree, Grant. And maybe you're right. Maybe he doesn't like these fans that are getting after him, and there's a ton of them, and you're right about that. But kind of like what you were saying, James, those people are always going to be there. So maybe that would be where I would actually say that would be a mistake for Becton, because if he thinks that he's going to escape bad fans or jerks, not jerks, sorry, that's not the right word. Basically, fans that don't like him, fans that want him gone. And I don't think that will work out in his favor in the long run. So this is pretty cool. I didn't even know I could get this little notification. Buffalo Jet fan. He's a member. 2 months of membership, in fact. So thank you for being a supporter of the channel. It's super cool of you. And this dude's got his own Jets channel, guys, and he is awfully funny. Check out his content, the Buffalo Jet fan. He says, a tall beer on a Sunday. He says, spring break vibes. Cheers. My man, he is a teacher as well. So he knows all too damn well. That's exactly where my head was at. I said to myself, I don't get to drink beer during our streams because I got to go to work. I got a nice beer here. It feels fantastic to be drinking it. And I'll be able to do it as well on Wednesday night. Thank you, Buffalo Jet fan, for stopping by. We'll get to the last mailbag, but we do have a super chat from NY Loso. If I'm saying your name wrong, I do apologize. He's got the Rip City, the Trailblazers as his profile picture. That's pretty cool. He says, how do you guys feel about Sauce, Hamilton, and take a chance on a Jabo in the 2nd round? He was a top edge before he got hurt, and we still get our wide receiver or our offensive tackle in the 2nd round. He says, we can't rush this rebuilding process. What do you think? This is interesting.
Oof, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, how awful, just a quick little tidbit there. How awful is that for a Jabo? I mean, I feel bad for him.
It's terrible.
Yeah, you go through the combine, you go through this entire process to tear your Achilles at your pro day. It's just not something that should happen to these guys. That's not fair, because he is going to drop. It's just going to be the fact of the matter.
I'm going to add one thing to that. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It's so easy to forget. And we talked about how I'm 21 years old earlier. That's not true. 37 years old. These are kids, like 21, 20 years old, 22, and they are literally on the precipice of their dream. Yeah. So to say that this was a gut punch for David Ojabo is like the understatement of a lifetime. Yeah. It's a huge punch. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, and, financially too, I mean, that's a huge, this sport at any moment is a potential last play for you. And he could have probably been a top 10, top 15 pick before that injury there. And that comes along with a pretty nice signing bonus when you're picked that high, and that's probably not going to be on the table. You get that 5th-year option ability as well if you're in the first round. But so I'm assuming this year would be Sauce at 4, Hamilton at 10. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. And maybe you could interchange it, based on his question.
yeah. I mean, I'm good with Sauce. Hamilton, I'm not all. I wouldn't all be all that happy with it. I wouldn't be mad, but not all that happy. I'm not sure I could take a chance on a Jabo in the second round. I'd have both my edge rushers potentially with Achilles injuries at that point in time, and that's a risk in this defense. We talk about the importance of the edge. It's a risk I can't take. If he doesn't work out, then we're gonna look back on the draft and we're gonna say, hey, we could have had this guy in the second round with 35 or 38. We essentially do have it feels like we have almost 2 more first round picks. Like, what's the difference between 32 and 35? It's 3 picks. And so at that point, you really have the additional draft capital to get really impactful players that can play. And to take the risk on the health, I wouldn't put the Jets in that category as being able to take that risk.
Great answer. I'm gonna say I as we've said throughout the night and we've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I'm on board with Sauce Gardner. I think it's perfectly fine to draft him. Hamilton, it's a little bit tricky because I really like the projected safeties that'll be available in the second round. So NY Loso, the idea that you have is wonderful because our defense, if everything breaks our way, if Hamilton's a really good safety, a generational safety, if Sauce lives up to being a number 1 cornerback, and if this guy David Ojabo, who is really high upside as a pass rusher, can get back and healthy, I get what you're saying and I get where your head's at. There's a lot of risk involved with that David Ojabo pick. But having said that, though, that's probably the range he'll go. Someone's going to probably take a risk on him in the second round. I could see a team like Green Bay, stashing him and just saying, okay, take a year off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the type of team that I see taking him in round 2. So to answer your question, that is one scenario that I've heard a lot about is Sauce and Hamilton. And to me, I would feel really concerned without having that edge rusher in the first round before we go and get somebody like a safety. And that's kind of why I like the safeties in round 2. It's a great question, though, and you're right. We cannot rush the rebuilding process. Thank you for the super chat and for the great question. Let's go ahead and let's get to the last mailbag, which 45 minutes in. It's beautiful. This is what I love about the mailbag,
Great.
guys. You guys literally eat up half the show. So thank you for all the people that sent them in. And if you did not send in a mailbag this week, as I always say, keep your eyes out for it on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. I put it on the community tab every week. So just check those out and send in your questions, guys. This is from PC on Twitter, and he says, I'd love to hear a breakdown of the run game and what we can expect out of it for the 2022 season. Love the question. Mm-hmm. James, go. I want to hear it.
Yeah, no, listen, the run game really came on towards the end of the year. Obviously, Michael Carter is going to be I think he's going to be kind of the bell cow, but they do mix and match a little bit, what you need to do nowadays. But ultimately, quick breakdown of the run game itself. They're an outside zone, wide zone scheme. So that is a zone running scheme to where you're essentially blocking areas. If you're offensive lineman, if you got someone over you, you're going to block the guy that's over you. If there's nobody over you, you're ultimately going to double team and then get off to the second level. And running back wise, you have to have patience, but you have to have a lot of vision as well. Because once you take that handoff there, you're going to make that determination whether you're going to cut it up or you're going to take it to the outside based on the blocking, essentially how the leverage works with the offensive lineman, and it does wear down the defensive lineman as well because there's a lot of running sideline to sideline, and so it's a very popular run scheme now. Green Bay, obviously San Francisco. Minnesota is a big run scheme there too. So those teams know how to run the football, and I think the Jets are headed there. Now you got AVT's second year in the system. Hopefully, Mekhi Becton comes back. He was really dominant in the run game as a rookie there. McGovern came on at the end of the year. Hopefully, he's kind of back healthy. And then Laken Tomlinson has the scheme fit as he's actually going to be the left guard. And then AVT will be the right guard. So I think the run game is really going to come on. It does take a little bit of time to gel because the running backs really need to be in sync with the linemen in terms of when they decide to hit that hole, and how that blocking kind of syncs up. So it's going to be a year where I think they're going to run the football quite a bit. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. I know, they're not going to be, I don't think they're going to be this 40, 35 passing attempts per game type of team. They want to run the football, control the clock, play defense, and then let Zach be special when we need him to be, special. So I'm excited for the run game, but it definitely came on towards the end of the year, and I think they'll be a lot better from the very beginning this year.
Great answer as always. I gotta go to Edward Stewart because he's got this awesome Jimi Hendrix profile picture. Listen, man, you talked a lot about it. I feel like really good about our running game going into 2022. And you talked about continuity and the gelling process. That's one of the reasons why I want Becton back. I want that continuity. He's been in the system, and I get that he was out for the year, but he has had time to learn. AVT's got a year of experience. I get that he's switching positions, but it's really, I don't think it's going to end up being as big of a deal as I had made it out to be when it initially was released to us. Laken Tomlinson is going to be an anchor, just an absolute anchor for us on the left guard spot. Doesn't miss games, and he's a really good football player. George Fant, we already know what he can do on the left side protecting. I feel very good about our offensive line. I feel very good about Michael Carter. The question I have is are they going to get another running back to complement, or are they going to rely on Tevin Coleman? I will go ahead and say that would be a mistake. I personally believe that. I don't want to see, and no disrespect to Ty Johnson, because he was a guy that I was very, very optimistic on going into the 2021 season. They need to get somebody else in here. And that's the only piece that I really feel like is missing, because they added the 2 veteran tight ends. And you cannot say to me, based on what we saw last year, like you said, James, they wanted to run the football last year. Mm-hmm. The tight end position, I think, really not only screwed up our passing game, it effed up the running game too. Like they weren't doing what they needed to be doing. And so I think by getting the Uzama and Conklin, it works 2 ways. It's going to help the running game get going. It's going to help the play action game, which ultimately will also help the running game get going as well. So there's a lot of factors going on with this team and what we can do in the draft to even make it better and stronger. The big thing, and Jin Pak just threw it in the chat, this is so key to every football team, but especially young football teams like ours, where we don't have a lot of depth like some of these other teams. We're just not there yet as far as depth. We're getting better, but we do not have the million, guys in the back just waiting to get in there and have their opportunity. So if we can't stay healthy on the offensive line, it's going to screw us up again. Just being honest. If we can't stay healthy, it's going to impact it. So that's my answer. I think you should be optimistic about the running game, and you should feel like if things can gel quickly, we can come out the gates and we can run the football down people's throats. And I mean that because, like you said, Mekhi Becton, I still feel like he is going to be on a warpath, especially early on in the season. He's going to want to make a statement, and I think it's going to come in the running game, man. I think he's going to get on the right side or the left side, and he's just going to be mauling dudes. And I say hand the ball off behind him as much as you can. Get Uzama and get Conklin going in the play action game, and use the wide receiver, spread the ball around. Like, this offense can get going, man. We had some good games last year, and I feel like there's definitely some reasons to feel like they can gel and get going. So, all right, I'm getting too excited. Let me move on. Thank you for all of the mailbags. Thank you for all of the people throwing the comments in. Still got over 110, excuse me, almost 110 of you now. Hit the like button. Come on, people. All right. Let's go to our first topic, which is wild. We are 50 minutes in. We're going to do Jets pre-draft visits. And with literally 30 seconds before the show started, I got a nice list here. And I'm going to put it up on the screen for you guys at home to be able to see what we're looking at here. And that actually works kind of nicely. So there you go. This is the most up-to-date list that I could find. And as far as I could tell, this is a official list of the players that the Jets either have visited with or will be scheduled to visit with. And there are some really interesting names on this little clip here. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I see one right now that I didn't realize that we had brought in or will be bringing in, and it is Isaiah Likely. That's interesting.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
That is surprising. So let's go ahead and I'm going to throw it to you, chat, and I'm going to also throw it to you, James. Chat, are there any names on this list that get you really fired up? Are there any names that you're looking at and you're like, who the hell is this guy? Because I'm looking at one right now, Taysir Mack from Pittsburgh. Yeah. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't know who he is. But there's other guys on the list, though. Like I said, Isaiah Likely. Why don't you go ahead, chat, and James, give me, what are your thoughts on any of these players and surprises, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of big names on the list. I wonder how the visits work. Like, I think these are like top 30 visits, so I don't know how they determine. I guess maybe the team just makes their own determination. Obviously, the Perion Winfrey one is interesting. They coached him in the Senior Bowl, and he dominated that week in that game. So that's interesting that he's there too. He could be a target at 35, 38. Obviously, the bigger names, you have the Hutchinson of the world in there, and I do like that we have three: Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, Traylon Burks. Their mind's in the right place for those top wide receivers there. That's interesting. And yeah, for Taysir Mack is a wide receiver at Pittsburgh. And I think he was a fifth-year senior, actually. So he's a little bit older of a player. I think he had a little over 17 yards per catch at Pittsburgh this past year. Probably got on the radar because Kenny Pickett was his quarterback. Some teams probably looked at the film and were kind of intrigued. So he's a little bit of a deep threat type of player. His season was cut short by injury. I think he broke his collarbone in October or so. So he was not really on the map for the entire season. But he did have, I think when I looked it up, I think he had like 450 yards through the end of October. So he was having a pretty good year for himself. But he is an older player. So I haven't seen him really like ranked high though. For the Jets to bring him in for a top 30 visit is kind of interesting because he's not going to go in the first round or the top 30 or whatever it is. He's going to be a later round prospect, but someone that they maybe just or they feel like they could get in the fifth round that they just wanted to meet with. And then I'm trying to think elsewise. Isaiah Likely, and you brought him up. That's the name for me. That's really interesting because he's different than the other guys that we already have. That's the reason.
Yes.
It's all right. Well, we got the nasty guys already, right? We got CJ Uzama, who is, I don't know, he's like 6'6", 6'7", nasty in the blocking game. Tyler Conklin looks like a mean, what. He can block there too. And they both have receiving ability. It's not that they're just pure blockers. They have the ability to catch the football. But then you throw in Isaiah Likely and he could be like the chess piece, the Evan Ingram tight end type, that can really stretch the field for you. But you can also move around in different spots and you don't have to rely on him for solely blocking altogether. And, so I think that's a really interesting name, especially with how creative Mike LaFleur likes to get. He could be a guy that can really be a weapon to where, okay, if we add the wide receiver, we're almost adding another one with Isaiah Likely that we can move around as a chess piece. So it's an interesting list. A lot of big time names on there. Obviously, we're not going to get all those guys.
No.
It would be nice, maybe if it was Madden or something. But their mind is in the right spot with where they're looking. They're looking edge, secondary, wide receiver, and then obviously the trenches there too. So.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning this is not going to end up being the complete list. There are going to be more players added to this list and more players that they invite. Let me go to the chat first before I give any of my initial takeaways. So Mike Kaz, Jets all the time, and he has been he's been talking a lot in the comments of my videos, talked a lot about Tyler Linderbaum, and he said, yeah, I noticed. He says, no Linderbaum, so he's upset. Man, I don't know. I don't know what to make of them not seeing him. Here's the thing, though, and I think it was Kev Chatta. There are a lot of smoke screens. These are some sneaky sons of guns, these GMs and these coaches. They are careful about this kind of stuff. And if there's a guy that they really, really like and they feel like they don't want other people to know that they like them so much, they might not bring them in. If they feel really good, if they feel like they've already seen what they wanted to see, and when they talk to them at the scouting combine, if they feel like they already got a good sense of who they are, they may not feel the need to bring that guy in. So there's a chance that, they don't bring Tyler Linderbaum on just because they don't want people to know that they are interested. So don't let the list fool you, I guess is the words that I would say. Mm-hmm. Jason Rhodes, he says, I still want Isaiah Likely. Jaime, he says, no Christian Watson or Jermaine Johnson. I think that's an interesting comment. They brought in a couple of edge rushers. They brought in, the two top ones, but no Jermaine Johnson and no Christian Watson.
He may have just been there.
Jermaine, and that's true, actually, now that you're just saying that.
Right, because then he send a tweet, and the tweet was from Florham Park or something like that.
Yes.
I think people connecting the dots, maybe.
For sure. Yep. And he hit a couple of likes on some people asking him, about the Jets. And so, I'm sure he loved what he like. I can't imagine a guy going to an NFL team and not liking what they saw, what they heard. I don't know, but it's cool though. And I think, it's interesting that, to go back to the Senior Bowl for a second, this is one of those advantages. Robert Saleh got to talk to all these guys, or at least most of them. Yep. So they are probably deferring, I should say, to Robert Saleh and saying, hey, what'd you think of this kid when you talked to him? What did you think when you saw him versus this other Senior Bowl attendee? How did he match up against that guy? So there may not be a lot of guys from the Senior Bowl that they bring in. I know Perion Winfrey is one of the guys that was there. But they may try to stay away from those guys, steer clear, because they already have a good sense of what's going on. Alexander, this list is the pre-draft visits. So it's not the entire list, but these are the guys that have already been invited or have already come to Florham Park. Let's see. Yes, JJ did have a visit. Yep. And confirmed it by Schefter on his IG.
They probably had quite a few visits at the combine as well. So,
yeah. And Jaime is agreeing. He's saying you're not really a big need to bring in these Senior Bowl kids. We already kind of got to know them a little bit. Mm-hmm. So back to what you were saying about Isaiah Likely. I still would like them to draft a tight end in the late rounds. And I don't know where Isaiah Likely will end up going. But if we can end up getting him to go behind these other two guys, that will have me hyped up, because that's one of those like perfect scenarios where you don't need him to block year one. He doesn't even need to do that job unless there's like a ton of injuries at the tight end position. This is a guy that can just come in and make plays. You can put him in situationally, red zone opportunities, and just let him make plays on the football. That's one of the reasons why I like Cole Turner in that same regard. It's a guy that can really make plays with the football. And so I would love to get a tight end in the late rounds, like an Isaiah Likely. Just think about all the targets that we would have in that room, not even
Mm.
considering our tight end, or excuse me, our wide receiver position. We can add to that position in the draft as well. So many different avenues that can be discussed. It's kind of crazy and overwhelming, if anything. All right, let's move on from this. Chris Olave was the other name I was going to talk about. I just feel like the rumors are buzzing right now about him maybe going earlier than we expect.
Hmm.
So pretty intriguing. All right, we're gonna rewind the clock, and I'm gonna let you talk on this. You can go as quickly or as slow as you want, but we haven't
Hmm.
had an opportunity to grade
Oh yeah.
Joe Douglas's free agency. So I get it. It's kind of rewinding the clock here, but I do want to hear what you have to say on some of these guys. How do you grade? It doesn't have to be all of the players that we signed, but how do you grade some of the more noteworthy players that we signed in free agency?
Yeah, so I graded out each one. I'll kind of the new guys, right? Really, at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
including obviously Braxton Berrios. That's kind of a big one there. The Lake and Tomlinson, I gave an A minus. I thought it was necessary to add a veteran to this offensive line and not be someone who is going to need to come in and learn the whole process and be another kind of I don't want to say project but developmental type of player, and they had the money to do it, and I think they picked probably the best option for them with Lake and Tomlinson coming over from the 49ers. So he worked with Mike LaFleur. He's been around Robert Saleh. It was an interior offensive line need. Our right guard spot was a disaster last year, and I now we have AVT in that spot, but and he'll and Lakin will stay at the left guard spot. But it's so important to get that interior settled because we just had so much going on with that right guard spot, and uh, LDT. I think those are the correct initials for him.
It is.
The doctor. I mean, he when he stepped in, he kind of stabilized things here for a little bit. But for majority of the year, that was a disaster position. So for them to be able to get Lake and Tomlinson was a huge get. A minus for them. Durability is through the roof. And so he is always an available player, which is important. Braxton Berrios, I gave a B plus. B plus because he's not gonna light the world on fire, right? He's not gonna be an all pro wide receiver or anything like that, but he fit very comfortably with Zach, and he was a very big part of our special teams, which is a third of the entire football game, and so it was important to get him back here. And the way the money that we got him for based on what they were reporting clearly Joe Douglas won in that negotiation room for Braxton Berrios, and no team thought that, no team went higher than or maybe some team did, but Braxton Berrios gave us a little hometown discount, but it wasn't what they were reporting. And so B plus for Braxton Berrios there. CJ Uzama gave a B. I thought that was a terrific signing there. Age, he's a little bit older, but ultimately, and he did have an injury pretty recently, I believe, his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, meaning the year before they went to the Super Bowl last year. But he's going to be an impact player, the locker room presence, veteran presence that's been obviously in the big game. So I gave him a B. I'm pretty excited about him. DJ Reed, I gave a B plus because
This is ridiculous. Your
yeah,
grade,
yeah.
your grades are freakishly the same as mine. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, no, it's no because because they're all like on that level of very good, but there's no super there's no superstar that we're like, hey, we just threw $150 million at this guy, or Joe Douglas got a lot of value players on very reasonable contracts that are not going to hurt this team if someone doesn't work out. So for me, that drives up the value so much on some of these players because the risk factor is mitigated a little bit by what you're paying them and for how long you're paying them. We didn't go Jacksonville Jaguars on the NFL here because they ruined basically everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean they single handedly ruined the wide receiver market.
They did.
Uh,
They
yeah,
really
they
did.
ruined. Teams had to have. I couldn't. Being in that room probably with Kansas City and Green Bay, they were probably like, "Are you kidding me?" And
Exactly.
obviously now Seattle and Tennessee and all of them, they're going to have a problem. But DJ Reed B plus. I think he steps in immediately. He's our one of our outside corners there. And again, scheme familiarity. He gets his hands on the football. A little bit of a shorter player, but it's going to work out with him there. Jordan Whitehead, I also gave a B. Um, I would have liked to see him maybe a little bit longer of a contract. I'm kind of nervous, like he's going to go off for 2 years, and we're not going to have him for as long as we potentially want him. And not to say that makes it a bad signing or anything, but I believe right, it's just 2 years. What 17, 14 million? 2 years, 14 million, something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a
Um,
2-year deal. I'm pretty sure.
2 year deal there. I would have liked to see him maybe solidified for that third year, but hopefully he loves it here and he stays a while. But he's going to help our run game tremendously, our run defense tremendously, and so I'm excited about him. And he's pretty good in zone coverage from what I've seen anyway. So pretty excited about him. We needed to address that safety spot, so we got one of them down there. Um, Tyler Conklin, I gave a B plus. I'm pretty excited about him. I know you were big on him too. Um, I'm pretty excited about him because I think he's going to bring just a level of intensity, a level of nastiness to this run game, to the offense altogether. A little bit of an attitude that we didn't really have. That presence we didn't really have. He almost brings like a respectable factor to the offense in terms of,
Hmm.
all right, well, when we line up, we have to worry about that guy. We have to deal with that guy. That's something the Jets don't normally have. And I'm not trying to turn him into a superstar, but I think he's just a player that you're going to have to say, all right, we have to deal with him again. We have to tackle him again. He's gonna down block on us again, and he kind of wears you out a little bit with the way he plays. So I'm pretty excited there. Um, I'll throw some other names out that I didn't give great grades to. I mean, Solomon Thomas. I wouldn't be all that like gung ho on him all of a sudden turning into Stanford Solomon Thomas. Maybe he contributes a little bit here and there. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy though. I gave him a C just because of familiarity with Salah there. Jacob Martin is an interesting one for me. I gave him a C plus just because I think the flashes are there, but I couldn't understand really why he didn't. It didn't seem like he played a lot more than he potentially could have based on what he did with minimal ish reps there. So yeah, so that seems to cover everyone big. Obviously, Joe Flacco, Dan Feeney, those guys are there, but
That's my
um,
entire list. You hit every player that I wrote down on
yeah.
my list, so
So
perfectly done. And the grades are very, very close for us. So I'll go through mine kind of quickly here. Uzama, I had a B as well. You spoke a lot about the age and the previous injury. I would also point out the lack of production.
mhm.
It's only just started to, come in for him. So it's a B, and it's not a bad grade. I hope anybody that's watching doesn't think that we hate CJ Uzama. It's just that there's some risks involved in that move. But not too much though, because it was only a 2-year deal, I think, as well for him.
Mhm.
Tyler Conklin, I gave A minus to. Actually, that is my guy. I thought that once David Njoku came off the mark, excuse me, David Njoku, once he came off the market, I felt like he was the best option for us, and still pretty young. I think he's like 27 years old, and uh, he got his opportunity. He made the most of it, man. He had a really good season last year for the Vikings. So I feel really good about him. Laken Tomlinson, I gave an A to. I think that, some people were hating on the signing initially because we were going to potentially move him to right guard. With him being at the left guard spot, I don't see how you can give it anything less than an A. It's just too good of a signing when you consider that it's going to be, it's super safe. The injury, the fact that he never gets hurt, and scheme familiarity, coaching. He's been on this coaching or with coaches on this staff. So for all of those reasons, A grade for him. DJ Reed, I also gave a B plus to. Jordan Whitehead, our biggest difference. I actually gave that an A minus, and for for multiple reasons. But number one, the safety position just needed we needed somebody. And I think that when you talked about the 2-year contract, and I actually I see that as a little bit of as a positive because we're not none of these contracts are long term. All of them are
Mm-mm.
3 years or less, and I think that's very very intentional. And I think that you could maybe make the case that like we shouldn't give out as many 1-year contracts as we do. But ultimately, if he balls out like you said he does, or excuse me, like he could, I should say, there's a chance you get a compensatory pick, excuse me. Um, that's one of the things that the Jets have never been involved in, those compensatory picks. And I think that's one of the reasons why JD does this thing with these 1, 2, 3 year contracts is when these guys leave, if they leave, you're hopefully getting something
Mm-hmm.
back. And you're getting it back
Right.
for essentially for free. Um, so I like the move a lot. I think he's just a really good football player and very versatile as well. Jacob Martin, I gave
Mm-hmm.
a B, which is just slightly above your grade. I think he's a fine situational pass rusher, and we need as many of those guys in the rotation as we can. And I was a little bit more kind to Solomon Thomas for the contract that we gave him, a 1-year deal worth $2 million or something like that. So low risk. You really can't. Like I'm not trying to hype him up as like a good defensive tackle as far as like he should be starting and he has chance for Pro Bowls. He doesn't, but as a rotational piece, as a depth piece, and a good player, a good locker room guy, I think that's important. Good leader in the locker room. I think for those reasons, I give it a B. Excuse me, a B minus. That completes my list as well. So it's creeping up on that time where I want to do a mock draft. I have other topics planned, but I can always save them. Are you up for a mock draft?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'll go to our poll and I'm going to screenshot it so everybody can see the results. And there were a ton of votes. So guys, thank you so much for casting your vote on what the theme of the mock draft would be tonight. And you guys picked double defense. And I did throw in the James John no chat help one, and it got a lot of votes actually, but it did not win. People still want to have a voice in this
That's
draft,
it.
and we will allow it. So double defense, 4 and 10 is the vote winner. So we'll be looking to get 2 defensive players. The only scenario where I think we maybe don't do double defense, even though that was the vote winner, is if we end up taking Kayvon Thibodeau at 4. I really like the idea of getting a wide receiver if we are able to land him at the number 4 overall spot. But let's not screw around. Let's not waste any time. If you are watching this right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pretty much wrap up the show with a mock draft. And in doing this, for the last, I don't know, 2 months or so, we are happy to listen to what you guys have to say. You can throw out players that you like that you think we should consider. Oh, James, you've disappeared on me. Let's see if we can get you to reappear. Let's see here. There you are. There you are. Okay. So anyway, like I was saying, guys, we will take your ideas into consideration. Oops. And that's pretty much all I think I need to say, right? Like I think we're good to go, right? We can hit the button here and get this thing started.
Okay. For sure.
Alrighty. Continue. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Ikem Ekwonu are off the board right away, and our New York Jets are on the clock. For right now, I would rather not do polls, so if you want a specific player, I'm going to ask you to help me out and just put their name in the chat, and I'll go through what you guys say. Jay Perez, he says Solomon Thomas is getting welfare from the Jets. This is the thing, man. Like he is not making a ton of money. Like it's certainly not welfare, but it's not a lot of dough we're giving this guy. And he played pretty good for the Las Vegas Raiders last year. So, alrighty. So again, these are like kind of the 3 guys, and I think this is probably one of the most realistic top 3. We've actually had so far. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Ikem Ekwonu. I kind of agree with this. Like this is how I would predict the draft to go. Right now, if you had to ask me, maybe Ikem Ekwonu goes number 1, and then you kind of just bump those 2 pass rushers down. Let's see what everybody's saying. We got Chad in the chat. Chad, when you're ready, and I know you're a busy guy, but when you're ready, you just let me know, brother, and I will get you back on the show, even if it's just for 30 minutes. You can come on here. You can pop on. Would love to have you, Chad. Jason Rhodes says, let's go get some sauce.
Yeah.
Kev Chatta says, let's go get JJ. Let's see. Walker at 4. And we've got 2 people actually voting for Walker. Not really into that. No offense to you guys. Now Jason Rhodes is saying, actually, you know what? Go Evan Neal. You're being a troll, Jason Rhodes. Please pick anyone. I'm not sure what that means. Jay Perez again, Trayvon Walker. Yikes. All right, so what are you thinking, James? What are you doing here? I think I know what your head's at.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner at 4 because he is the best prospect on the board that's left.
Yep. And let's see here. Sean Bennett says, I guess Sauce, KT is off the board, but JJ would be my pick. I don't hate the idea of trying that because we have not taken Jermaine Johnson at number 4 yet.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Pock says the Greek Freak. Sean Bennett says, I'll say JJ, but it is tempting. Sauce is tempting. Johnny Muriel, if I said your last name wrong, I apologize. He says Trayvon Walker. There's a lot of Trayvon Walker people watching the show right now. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say with the number of people that have said JJ and Walker, let's try the edge with it being the second tier edge rushers. And I know we're not really in favor of that, James, but I am interested, as always, with these mock drafts. I'm interested to see kind of like to test out different scenarios.
Yep.
So let's do a quick poll here. And I am going to put up JJ and Walker. Those are the 2 choices. And you guys can go ahead and cast your votes right now. Tell me a little bit more about Walker because you talked about the the workout warrior stuff, and I definitely hear what you're saying on that one. But are there any things that you see or that you know about him that kind of turns you off with him at 4?
Yeah, I don't the pass rush technique I just don't think is there yet. And that's not to say it can't get there, but I don't see the pass rusher in Trayvon Walker consistently. It didn't match. His athletic ability just didn't match the overall production. He played inside quite a bit as well. So there's versatility there. But I think you're projecting him at a certain level to be a pure edge rusher player, and that you can turn him into, that pure edge rusher. So it's a project type of pick. It's, nothing against the player. He can absolutely play football. There's no doubt about it. But I just think polish wise, he has a lower floor than a guy like Jermaine Johnson or George Karlaftis, guys like that. So I just don't think overall the polish in the pass rush is there to say, okay, we have Trayvon Walker. He's going to be our consistent edge rusher that's going to be able to get after the quarterback on a consistent basis. I don't see it right off the bat for me.
That was really well said. And that's a lot of what I've heard from people is he's limited in his pass rush moves. He is not a polished product, if you will. HD Marino throws in a pretty interesting comment, and I have seen this actually on Twitter, that JJ has a terrible pass rush win percentage in college, which usually translates to bust-ish in the NFL. That's an interesting thing to think about is, those analytics. Does JJ actually have the does he have the pass rush ability to be a successful edge rusher in the NFL? I mean, there are a lot of people that have that know more than what I do, and they seem to think that he might even be better than Kayvon Thibodeau. So it's like you can never find a consensus in the NFL draft. It's almost
Mhm.
never gonna happen. But I do hear what you're saying, HD Marino, and I do appreciate you throwing that in the chat. Jaime says no way that Walker makes it to 10. JJ should be there. He might be there. I don't know about that though, because I think the Giants could take an edge rusher. I don't know if there's a guarantee. Right now it's JJ by a nose hair. This guy is barely winning the poll right now, 52% to 48%. If you have not cast out your votes, go ahead and do that. And Mike Kaz throws in a great
Yeah, he
comments,
is.
something that I should have mentioned already, and this is something that not only you said on the channel, James, but other people that talk about
Mhm.
JJ as a prospect, they point to him as not a one-dimensional defensive end. This is not just a guy that you throw in there on third downs. This is not a guy that is going to be soft on the edge in setting the edge and stopping the run. This is a full package type of defensive lineman. And I'm going to go ahead and say 10 more seconds because he has started to take a lead. Maybe it's our sales pitch that's swaying the votes right now. We're moving the polls just on how we're selling this. Um, this is absolutely true, Jaime. And I have a video on the channel talking about dream scenarios. And the very first dream scenario is 100% Kayvon Thibodeau is available at the fourth overall spot.
Yep.
If we can get him at number 4, it simplifies the rest of this draft so much. I really do believe that.
Hmm.
So, all right. Sauce is not available. Sorry, Frank. We didn't put him on the poll because we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm glad you joined us, though. Let's go ahead and make Jermaine Johnson the pick. He is the Jets' new defensive end. And hell yeah. So we're off and running, and the second pick will probably be a little bit easier. I
Yeah,
think. I
I know.
hope. I hope so. So Garrett Wilson is gone, so that makes it a little bit tricky. He does go to the Atlanta. Oops, sorry. He does go to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit. So we just took Jermaine Johnson. Ahmad Gardner goes 5th to the Giants. I mean, I really don't think he's making it to 10. I really think that the Giants will take him either
No,
at
he's not.
5 or 7. And I don't think the Falcons will take him. Maybe the Seahawks would take him. And we see that they took a cornerback here in Derek Stingley. But, this is a very realistic mock draft so far. Maybe that's the case because now we're getting closer and these mock simulators are just better at knowing what's actually up. And here we have a nightmare scenario. Kyle Hamilton is available. This is one of my nightmare scenarios. I have a video of that as well. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go ahead and show you who's available. We've got Kyle Hamilton, Charles Cross, Malik Willis. We could try to trade back, I guess. We didn't say that we wouldn't trade back in this mock draft. Drake London is available. Jamison Williams is available. Chris Olave. All of the wide receivers are there. Traylon Burks is available. So I think it's pretty clear, and we're going to have a ton of people screaming at me in the chat. It's between Kyle Hamilton trading back with a team to, who wants Malik Willis and a wide receiver. I really think that's the only way you're going in this pick number 10. So James, what are you doing? Pick number 10. Are you trading back? Are you looking to trade back? Are you taking the wide receiver that you feel best? Or are you going to go ahead and are you going to just take Kyle Hamilton because he's the best player available?
Do I have to pick defense here?
No, for
No.
your, I mean, I'm asking your opinion at this point. So
Oh, okay.
what would you do? What would you do in this circumstance?
In this circumstance, I'd go wide receiver. I'd feel pretty comfortable with Drake London, um, at 10 there for sure. I get the whole Kyle Hamilton thing, and I understand it. If that's what it becomes, that's what it becomes. But for me, I still think they need that wide receiver to kind of unlock the rest of this offense here. And They've obviously tried, and they've tried really hard to fill the wide receiver spot. Um, Drake London at 10, or um, I mean, if you want to try Jamison Williams, that's fine with me also. I'd be fine with either one of those guys at 10, but I'd probably lean Drake London at 10. I think he is kind of what we're missing too, in a sense, with the height, the ability. He's a better route runner than people give him credit for, despite being 6'5", and he plays like a center on a basketball court at the same time.
Mm.
And so in Zach, I mean, I've watched every single play that Zach has basically been a part of since he was like 20 or 19 years old now, considering the draft process last year, all the way back to his sophomore year, some of his freshman year. So freshman year, I didn't get most of, but sophomore year. And I mean, man, they just let him throw the ball up sometimes at BYU and just said, you know what, I can back shoulder it. I can put it in the spot to get my wide receiver a high point. And so I think Drake London would really kind of put an additional little level to the offense, to where you could say, okay, we need that red zone touchdown. We got a wide receiver one-on-one, throw it up, high point it, and he'll go get it. That's for sure. And so Drake London is really intriguing for me at 10. I'm just not going to force Kyle Hamilton here, in my opinion.
And I'm thinking we're okay. We're actually clear here. Nobody in the chat has even uttered his name. So we will not be taking Kyle Hamilton.
Okay.
There are a lot of people talking about taking Jamison Williams, just sticking and picking right here. There are people saying Drake London as well. Although Crown Plaza is saying let's go ahead and take Kyle Hamilton at 10. That's the only person I've seen so far. Snipes, thank you for tuning in. He says, I prefer Olave over London. And Joe Grana, unfortunately, Sauce is no longer available, so we can't take him. Nino with his massive arms, my God. And he also says, Jerry Rice was slow. Drake at 10. I like that point. Speed is not going to be everything with a wide receiver. You got to be able to do all the other stuff too. Jim V, he says we need the tight end to stretch the field. Well, we can get that tight end, but we can get that tight end much later than the 10th overall pick. Grant Rudy says, what? Why all of a sudden people don't want Hamilton? We went like 6 drafts in a row taking him at 4 and no one wants him at 10. Odd. I don't see a lot of people talking about Mr. Hamilton. It could be that 4.75 or whatever he ran in the 40-yard dash. I mean, that's a little bit concerning that he doesn't have that straight line speed, especially being a safety. Linderbaum, LOL. He knows he's not going to get his wish. He's just putting it in there. What do you think? So we'll say because I saw a bunch of people also talking about trade back. What do you think about polling up trade back or taking a wide receiver? I think that's fine with me. Yeah. And we can make the choice of wide receiver. So let's do wide receiver, and I'll put 2 names of receiver in there. I'll put London and I'll put Williams because those were the names that were mentioned the most. And we're going to also put a trade back option. There you go, guys. Another poll. And I'm not going to wait too long here. So if you are watching, if you're one of the 100 people watching, after you've cast your vote, go ahead and hit the like button. We have not hit 100 likes on the stream tonight. So I got to say, guys, you gotta, those are rookie numbers. You gotta, those are rookie numbers in this racket. You gotta crank that up a little bit. Hit the like button for us. Would greatly appreciate it. And we are off and running in the votes. We've got trade back as the number 1 option right now. Frank Pagan is saying we could trade with the Saints, and we haven't done a mock with that. The Saints just acquired another mid first round pick, so I'm not against doing that. Grant Rude says I'm voting Hamilton.
I
I'm interested in what he's thinking here because I don't recall him necessarily loving Hamilton nor hating him, but I guess he's thinking this is like too good to pass up at 10, which I think is fair. Go ahead. What were we gonna say?
I feel like you can. This is what 10 is one of the picks that you can semi predict. For and maybe this is wrong, but I'll go for it anyway. Like Joe Douglas isn't playing with a mock draft simulator. Like Joe
What? What are
Douglas,
you talking
like
about?
this is when the draft comes up. Like whatever Joe Douglas decides to do, at some point in time, there's going to be a knock on his door from one of the Johnsons, and they're going to say, okay, wait, we traded Sam Darnold, right? And we all recognize that, okay, maybe he wasn't, great or anything individually, but we also didn't do anything to necessarily help him either. And then we have picks 4 and 10. And yeah, we got it. We took an edge rusher at 4, all good to go. We needed that to happen. And he's going to be a great player. But at number 10, we fell for the cheese and took a safety. And Drake London is, I don't know, he's in Washington or he's with the Saints. And he's looking like he might become Mike Evans, a version of Mike Evans. And we're sitting here and Zach Wilson's still playing with, I don't know, some dude that they had to pick up down the street. And at that point, I think Joe Douglas understands, okay, I am trying to trade for all of these different kind of wide receivers. I'm willing to give up whatever because I understand my ass is on the line if I don't help this kid. And if you have the 10th pick and you don't grab one of these wide receivers when the other option is potentially just, I don't want to say just a safety because he's really good, but it's a safety as opposed to someone that Zach Wilson can legitimately be throwing touchdowns to. I think Joe Douglas would have a hard time explaining that one to not only us, but the people who employ him at for the Jets. And so this one here, if a Drake London's available, if a Jameson Williams is available, Joe Douglas does not take them, and they're somewhere else helping a young quarterback. And we have a safety who, making some impact plays, things of that nature. It's going to be very hard for Joe Douglas to get out of that explanation for why he did it.
It's a great. You just preached, man. You were on point with a lot of that. So you're right. I have a hard time believing that JD will, like you said, take the cheese and take a safe. I just don't see it happening. Even though at 10, it seems to be tempting for sure. But I just, like you said, how can he possibly take the risk after just trading away Jamal Adams? I don't see how he can do it. Anyways, let's go to the poll, and holy moly, it's close. 35% of the people have voted for London, so he is the top vote getter. I'll give you another 15 to 20 seconds here, guys. And again, we have our edge rusher. I feel really good about getting a wide receiver here at number 10. I do like the idea of trading back, but I wouldn't be mad at all if Joe Douglas, if he is convinced that there is a guy that he can get at number 10 that will, like you said, help this kid to, fulfill his true abilities. I'm all for it. Let's see here. Whew, oh my God. London and Williams are now tied 35%. Oh my gosh, you guys are incredible with these votes. I think people do this intentionally. They only vote to make it as close as possible. Willem is saying trade back so we can get wide receivers and like 5 more picks. I do like the idea of trading back. I won't lie. Frank Pagan, he says, come on, guys. London can't separate. Let Zach throw into coverage for 50-50 balls. The other one, he says, I came at the right time. Holy crap. Oh, for a hot second, it was 33% for the three. Okay, now Jameson Williams is the top vote getter. I'm going to count, and I'm going to say, oh my God, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Trade back and Jameson Williams are the top vote getters. You got a preference on trade back or Williams?
Um,
Because it's tie. Oh, now it's Jamison Williams. You don't get to
I'll,
choose.
I'll take, I'm good with Jameson.
We are going to roll. We're going to roll with Jamison Williams. Let's go ahead and let's make him the pick. And JMO is coming home to the New York Jets. And I love this because we saw Joe Douglas go goo goo gaga for Tyreek Hill and almost landed him. I still feel like Jamison Williams can come back and play this season and be a big time contributor. I really do believe that. I'm not a doctor. I don't actually know what the hell I'm talking about, but I feel like he can do it. I think that there's reason to believe that. All right, let's keep it moving here. The other one says, dudes, there's like 110 of you watching with only 70 likes. Let's get these likes up for Jets today. Appreciate you, the other one. Let's go ahead and let's see what the results are. Kyle Hamilton goes to the Texans at 13. Charles Cross goes to the Ravens. That's a great pick. I think Joe Lewis was in the comments saying he was the best player available at number 10. So that's a pretty good pick for them. Chris Olave to the Eagles. Kenny Pickett to the Saints. London goes to the Chargers. Good Lord. Mike Williams and London. That's scary. Not to mention Keenan Allen. George Karlaftis, Trevor Penning. Traylon Burks to the Steelers. The Patriots take a corner. Got Devontae Wyatt going in the first round. The Cardinals take Tyler Linderbaum. This mock simulator is on point. I got to be honest with you. These are some really realistic.
Did no one take Devin Lloyd?
No. Oh, he is available.
Do we need a poll?
No, we could go ahead and make that pick. This is one of those rare scenarios where the best player available is clearly a guy that should probably have gone in the first round. And I keep saying this over and over again in our live streams and in the videos. This happens every effing year. There's always somebody that falls into the early second round that you're like, what? This guy's available? And then the teams that are there, everybody wants to trade up for those picks, man. It's unbelievable. So Frank Pagan is saying we could take Lloyd, but we could also take Mafe. I don't think we're going to go there, man. I think we already have our pass rusher. Unfortunately, this is too good to pass up, I think.
Yeah.
Kev Chata says that the Chiefs did not take a wide receiver. Let's see here. Yes, Elijah Moore is a great example of that, but really it is every year, though. Every draft. Robert O'Gorman, thank you for tuning in. He says, Devin Lloyd, this is easy. Let's make him a New York Jet.
Yeah.
It's too easy to make him a pick. Oh, and look at that. Boye Mafe went within the next two picks. So let's take a look at the big board here, and I am going to show our current draft so far. So we've taken an edge rusher, we've taken a wide receiver, and a linebacker. Devin Lloyd was too good to pass up. I don't know if I had plans to take a linebacker there, but when somebody like that falls, you really can't afford to pass him up. So what are our big needs right now? I feel like safety is still a need. You could convince me to take a cornerback. You could convince me to take an interior offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. Let's go ahead and just take a look, though, at who's available. Lewis Seen is available. That's super intriguing to me. Jaquan Brisker is intriguing as well. Travis Jones is there. DeMarvin Leal. I don't know a lot about DeMarvin as an interior guy. Do you know much about him?
I don't know much about him. I know that he was supposed to be a much higher pick at the beginning of this year. He was one of those guys that he was projected quite a bit as a top 5 pick going into this college football season. So I'm not entirely sure what happened to him, but I don't know all that much about DeMarvin over there. But I know I follow the guy who runs this mock simulator here. I don't know if you follow him as well.
No.
Ryan Roberts, I believe. Hopefully I didn't just get that name wrong, but he's pretty big on DeMarvin there. So pretty interesting, but yeah, I don't know all that much about him.
HD Marino, he says Scene is arguably the second best safety in the draft. Such an easy pick here as far as I'm concerned. I have zero problem with Brisker or with Lewis Scene right now.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the way I'm leaning. I would like to look at the offensive linemen just real quick. I haven't taken a peek at them. Offensive tackle, Daniel Falele is there. Not really interested in him. No offense if you're a big fan of his. And then the interior offensive line, it's not a good time to be taking one. So we'll probably go ahead and pass on offensive line here.
Mm-hmm.
Safety position, I feel like it's definitely between the two for me. I guess Kyler Gordon could be interesting if you want to get a cornerback. I think we might pass on that though.
Yeah. What about interior? What about D-line?
Yeah, so these are the guys. Perion Winfrey is intriguing if we want to get a guy with some pass rush upside. Let me take a look at the comments here. We got Steven Engel who wants a running back. Good luck with that one, bud. Is that center still on the board? And he's talking about Linderbaum, and no, unfortunately, he is not an option for us. Frank Pagan says, rumor about Joe wanting another offensive tackle. Who's available? I just showed you a few seconds ago. I don't know if this is the right time to get one. Power Fitness says, let's go Lewis Scene. I agree. Jose Torres says, I agree. Hill, much better suited for the Jets. I love, and I think he's talking about Daxton Hill. He's one of my favorite players in the whole draft class. I'm not seeing too many people commenting here other than, talking about the safeties here. So let's just do a straight up poll here for two safeties. And then I feel like in the third round, we can probably go ahead and get our defensive tackle. I think that's the way I kind of want to go about doing this one. So let me create the poll. And we're going to go straight up. We're going to say Scene or Brisker. And for kicks, let's go ahead and throw in a defensive tackle or two. Let's go Travis Jones. Whoops, can't type. And I'm going to throw in Perion Winfrey. I'm going to say Winfrey as well. I know
I think they like him a lot.
I think they do too. They had him come in for a visit. So let's go ahead and let's make this poll a reality. It is posted, guys, so you can go ahead and cast your vote of who you would like the Jets to select here. Let's go back to the comments. Frank Pagan says, let's add a trade down. We're going to probably stick and pick for the majority of the rest of this mock. Scene is the best player available. James is saying, you go get him. James, you got to vote, man. If you want Brisker, go cast your vote right now. HD Marino says, if Martin Emerson is still there at 69, he could be a good move for cornerback. All right. Let's see how this poll is looking right now. We've got Lewis Scene, the majority vote getter right now, but it's a little early. What do you want to talk about with Lewis Scene? Because I feel like he's going to win the votes. What are your thoughts on him? Can he play free safety? Can he play strong safety? Can he play all over the place?
Yeah, I think he can play all over the place. I think we could put him in a one high type of situation, but he's also one of those heat seeking missiles that is going to come down in the run game. So I mean, between him and Jordan Whitehead, we'd be in pretty good shape. But you can also put him up high as that free safety, in my opinion, anyway. For Lewis Scene, tremendous athlete, and he comes down and he can lay the boom. He's one of those guys. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there, which you need in the NFL, no doubt about it. And something that the defense altogether lacked. They kind of lacked that killer instinct a little bit, in my opinion, last year. Anyway, a lot of it was a little passive. In some regard, especially in the secondary there. And he's a guy who can, he can come down and he's got that killer instinct. So it's not a bad pick whatsoever. I'm on board with adding a guy like that to this defense.
Some really interesting comments here. So Steve Rose says, yes, he can play all over the place. He is amazing, the best. And you're not the only one that really loves Lewis Scene. Thank you for that comment. This is one of the most interesting comments of the entire night. And I really appreciate you, Ruben, for putting it in here. He says, I honestly don't get why we're considering guys like Winfrey. We need a nose tackle to play next to Quinnen, not another defensive tackle. Am I off base with that? I'm going to answer this one first. You're not way off base. We do need a nose tackle, but that's one of those positions where I feel like you can get somebody, through free agency. You can get them later in the draft. We drafted Jonathan Marshall, although I guess he's more of a pass rusher kind of build defensive tackle as well. I think ultimately that's what the Jets want. They want to load up on pass rushers, and I feel much more comfortable getting a nose tackle via undrafted free agency, late round picks, free agency as the pro free agency market. So Ruben, you're not wrong, no doubt. We do need a nose tackle, but the Jets have made it clear, and Robert Saleh has made it clear, this is going to always be a rotating defensive line. And Quinnen Williams cannot stay on the field every down. And so if you have a guy like Winfrey, you can sub him in and you keep those two pass rushers on the interior fresh all game long. And so to me, that's the answer. Is yes, we needed an nose tackle, but we also need that second pass rusher on the inside. I hope that makes sense to you. James, you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, they're looking for guys that are they have the ability to also rush the passer from the inside. And so you're kind of looking at a different build of a defensive tackle. They're not really looking for that, 370-pound run stuffer that is, gonna play over the center type of player there. They're looking for that three technique. He's going to line up over the guard next to, Quinnen Williams is going to line up on one side, and they'll get this guy on the other side, and whoever that is. Right now it's Sheldon Rankins, who kind of struggled a little bit in the run game last year. So he needs to be able to play the run and also rush the passer from the inside. That's what they're looking for. This defense is built on getting a pass rush from their front four guys. And that just doesn't mean just the edge guys. That means on the inside as well. And, I'm pretty big on Quinnen Williams. I know he could provide that. And they're looking for someone who could do that more consistently next to him, but can also stop the run. So it's a little bit of a different build than your traditional nose tackle, run stuffer type of Snacks Harrison type of guy. Because that those were the days where we were running the 3-4, and you have three down linemen. One of them is usually over the center. That's your nose tackle, and then you have the two edges. Now you're kind of in a spot where you got the two edges still, obviously, but you're going to have two guys inside, so they're both really going to play over that guard near the three technique, rather than over a center type of player. So it's not off base. We do need interior defensive line help. I just think it's in a different mold now with the defense that they're running, rather than your traditional. I don't want to say it like this, but your traditional fat guy in the middle.
Good stuff. The comments are fantastic tonight. Ruben, happy to answer your question. Thank you for submitting it. It was a really good one. Joe Lewis says Travis Jones is going to be a monster. If he's there at 38, I don't see the Jets passing him up. Grant Root is saying Kyler Gordon has huge upside. I don't see the Jets prioritizing a safety this early. You could be right. I think they really like Mr. I forget. I can never remember this damn dude's name. I don't know why. The veteran. Yes, LaMarcus Joyner. I think they really like him a lot. More than I think they should, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But I think that's what Grant Root's suggesting, is that they like the safeties that they have. And that's including the Pittsburgh cornerback that we drafted and converted him into a safety, Jason Pinnock. I think they like him as well. But having said that, in this mock draft, Lewis Cine 50% of the votes. So we are going to make him a New York Jet. And we will move a little fast. What the hell is this doing? Why is this not working? There we go. Lewis Cine, welcome to the New York Jets. And I'm going to show you guys, as this is kind of ticking by here, our current draft. I really like it a lot, because
that's a pretty solid draft.
It's a really good draft because you're getting playmakers at multiple levels of the field. You've got a edge rusher, You've got a linebacker, and now you got your safety. So all three levels of the defense have been added to speed, like crazy speed. Excuse me. And then we've got obviously our weapon for Zach Wilson here in pick number 10. Loving what we're doing here. We got pick 69 coming up right now. So let's go back to the big board here. And let's take a look at what happened or what transpired. And of course, Grant Rude, he is a mind reader. He knew what was coming. Kyler Gordon was to the Bears. Arnold Ebiketie goes to the Seahawks. Quarterback goes to the Seahawks as well. Christian Watson to the Colts. Sam Howell. Travis Jones to the Ravens. The Ravens keep taking players that we keep talking about. Jalen Pitre to the Commanders. Sky Moore is a guy that I keep hearing about in the comments section. People really like him. Brisker falls all the way to 50. Perrion Winfrey goes to the Bills. That kind of sucks. David Bell goes in the second round. I don't think he's going to go in the second round. And that's about it. And we're right now on the clock. And I'm going to go ahead and show you who is available. So if you're at home watching right now, thank you. And if you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and do it. We are awfully close to 100 likes on this stream, and I would really like to hit that before we end the night. Really, really appreciate all of you guys being so active in the comments. It's been a lot of fun. Zebra FN is not a fan of this draft. He says D+ draft. This reminds me of our old drafts this past decade, if I'm being honest. Damn. Listen, we are tough individuals, James and I. We can handle the criticism. So if you do not like it, we can respect that and appreciate it. Let me know what you don't like. Like, don't say the whole draft sucks. I mean, maybe that you feel that way, but maybe there's one player that you really feel like was not a good pick. Tell us who it is, and I will read it. All right, let's take a look at this big board. God darn it. I keep moving that too fast. I wish I could I wish the windows worked a little bit differently on this presentation. So anyway, we got Trey McBride, Isaiah Spiller. I think there's going to be a lot of noise for Spiller here. Leo Chenal, the pass rusher. And Chad Muma is available. I don't know if we can take another linebacker. Darian Kennard, an offensive tackle. I think that was a name that Jet Central, Ian from Jet Central talked about a lot. As a guy that could be a backup and developmental guy that could come in after George Finn is gone. He right now would be one of my early picks getting an offensive tackle. Dylan Parham, interior offensive lineman, I think also makes a lot of sense. I remember reading a lot about him. Jeremy Ruckert's available. Isaiah Likely is also available. Rasheed Walker is a guy that I took in a mock draft not too long ago. He would also be an interesting guy as an offensive lineman to develop and be a backup. Based on what you're seeing here, James, and I'll go through all the position groups. What is your early burn right now? Who are you looking at that you say, I got to go get this guy because it's too good to pass up? I'm going to keep flipping through, though, while I'm doing this. So if you see a name, feel free to shout him out.
Yeah, the on the offensive line side of things, Kennard, I like him as an option too, because I do think there's also the ability for him to potentially move inside if he needs to be. So there's a little bit versatility wise of he could potentially also play guard. He may not just have to be a tackle. So you have versatility there in terms of what you could do with him. Abraham Lucas is an interesting name. I haven't watched any Washington State film. I'm not even sure if I have any Washington State film. But I always see him numbers wise. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I'll give you a little bit of a project there because he's got some of the best analytical numbers at the offensive tackle spot, probably in the entire draft. And it doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of buzz, but now seeing him at 85 on this anyway, I think is kind of the highest I've ever seen him. So maybe there is some buzz generating for him now. But Kennard, Lucas at 69, those would be interesting offensive line picks. And then what do we have at at the corner spot? I'm just curious.
Kobe Bryant is available.
Kobe Bryant's there. Yep.
I
He's a little
like
low
that.
on the 94.
Yeah, I
Um,
think he's gonna end up being a mid-round pick. I think there's there's some technical or excuse me, technique issues with him. That's the thing that I read a lot about is that he needs to work on technique coming into
yeah.
the NFL. He's got the size, speed stuff, but technique wise, he's not there.
Is
So,
there
sorry,
is
go ahead.
is there a guy named Alante Taylor on? He's a corner. Um,
We'll look for him. Alante Taylor. Yes, he is the
yeah, he's at
cornerback
114. All right, so
from.
ooh,
Is
Cam
that a
Taylor.
guy? Is that a guy
Yeah,
you like?
I really like Alante Taylor a lot. If we don't get Sauce, I think he's a guy that we could potentially get a ton of value on in the fourth, maybe fifth round type of deal. There probably would be the fourth round. I think we could get a ton of value for him. So I would wait and roll the dice to see if he would be there. I think we have like what we have 111 or something like that. 111 maybe.
I think that's correct. 111, and we also have another one not too far after that. We have 117 as well.
117 as well. Yeah, so I'd wait there.
Yeah.
So I'd go with a guy like Kennard. Be good with Kennard here. Add to the offensive line depth because let me preface: if we didn't get lucky with Devin Lloyd at 35, I'd either go with Chanel or Muma here at 69.
Yeah, and
But
I was just going to transition. So, a lot of people in the chat have been saying Muma's name over and over again, but we did take, like you said, Devin Lloyd already. There's no way we're going to take another linebacker this early, even
no,
though we really like Muma a lot. Obviously, we've talked a lot about him on the channel. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, and Kev Chata was so gracious, he actually already threw it in the chat. He says, let's start a poll. He says, Cole Strange, Lucas Kennard, and Kobe Bryant. I have no problem with that. I'm going to also put Abraham Lucas in there as well. Joe Lewis says that PFF has him actually ranked somewhere in the 50s.
yeah, he's gaining some. I forgot what the numbers were actually. Maybe I'll bring them for Wednesday and we'll go through
I
them.
I really like the idea of getting an offensive lineman here because there seems to be some good ones right now. I'm going to say O lineman Strange. We're going to go O line Kennard. What was the other one? Lucas?
Lucas, yep.
Okay, and then Lucas. And we're going to throw in a wild card. What's the wild card? Kobe Bryant. Let's throw him in there. Why not?
Kobe Bryant.
All right. The poll is up, guys, and cast those votes. We have hit 100 likes, so thank you very much for that. And anybody that's new to the channel, anybody that's watching this after, and I just want to say again, thank you for everything. Thank you for all the support. Channel's growing, and it's for you. It's because of you guys. You guys are the reason why. You guys keep tuning in. I get messages all the time from people, and they were like, "Wait, what the hell? You didn't stream on Wednesday?" They're like, "I had to drive into work without your channel being able to listen to it." I was like, "I'm really sorry. Like, we're gonna do it on Sunday." So thanks for all the flexibility, guys. All right, Kane Goulter, if I'm saying your name wrong, I do apologize. He says, I like Strange, would love that name on a jersey too. Yeah, and he's coming in at pick 69, so you get a 69 and Strange. It just be perfect. Put him in a jersey number 69 as well. All right. Kennard and Lucas right now are leading the poll. I feel like Kennard is the best option right here, and I'm not just saying that because Ian from Jet Central said that. I did more reading about him. Very, very versatile guy and a good scheme fit as well. Grant Rude, he says, I don't know anything about Lucas, therefore my pick is Kennard. He's possibly the best guard in the draft. Yes, I know he was a tackle at Kentucky, but he doesn't have the length for tackle, and that could be true. We could use him.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was just going to say we could use depth all along the offensive line. I don't think there's any specific position that needs it more than another. I think offensive tackle, obviously, you would prefer, but it is a Kennard landslide right now. So I'm going to go ahead and make him the pick. I don't want us to go too much longer because I really am trying to make sure that these streams don't go beyond 2 hours. So let's go ahead and let's make the pick here. Where the hell is he? Kennard, I passed him. There he is. Darian Kennard is a New York Jet. And I'm going to show our picks again because I like them. I know some people don't like this mock draft so far, but I feel really good about it. We have hit some really good positions of need. Also, now we're filling in the depth in the mid rounds, which is ideal if you ask me. So, feeling good about it. And James, from here on out, we're probably going to need to make our picks because we are running low on time. We have 4 more picks, 2 fourth rounders and two fifth rounders, excuse me. And let's go ahead and let's get back to the big board here. Trey McBride goes in the 3rd round. Kobe Bryant also goes in the 3rd round. Alec Pierce is a name that I keep seeing in the comments of my videos. A lot of people really like him. Calvin Austin from Memphis. Chad Muma goes in the 3rd round to the Steelers. That feels like an unbelievable fit for them. Cole Strange goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's see here. Brian Robinson goes in the 3rd round. That's interesting. To the Chiefs. They could use a thumper. Isaiah Likely goes to the Broncos. That kind of sucks. I would have looked for a tight end here. James Cook goes to the Seahawks. Dameon Pierce. That would have been another guy as well that I would have looked at. And we're getting some support, James. It's not all doom and gloom. We got a super chat here from Zane Game, and he says, if this is how the draft goes for us, sign me up. Yeah, man. It's not all bad. Don't worry. And this is the thing. It's a mock draft. It's not really what's going to happen. All right. Let's go ahead and let's make some picks here, James. Greg Dulcich would be really intriguing.
Yeah, he would be at this point.
He would be like a Isaiah Likely in this circumstance. I'll go through the big board kind of quickly here. Cade Otton is another tight end that I would be interested in. He's not quite as explosive as a receiver, though. Rashad White, the running back out of Arizona State, I'm a big fan of. You mentioned Alontae Taylor, and we can absolutely make him the pick if you make a compelling case for him. Tyler Algier is available. I feel like tight end, running back, or cornerback here would all be good fits for this spot. So what are your thoughts, James? What are you going to want to do?
I think we'd get really great value with Dulcich here at 111. Considering what we talked about with Isaiah Likely in the passing game, we can get someone who could potentially stretch the field to add as that 3rd tight end. I think Dulcich would be pretty solid value here at 111 to add to that tight end room and kind of complete the whole process.
A couple people in the chat talking about Charlie Kohler. He is an interesting target as well. He's really, really big and tall. Not sure if he goes before Dulcich and Jeremy Ruckert. I kind of like the idea of going Dulcich here, though. You get another receiving target for Zach Wilson. And yeah, one position that I do want to look at that we haven't looked at is wide receiver. Okay, yeah. It's pretty dried up a little bit here.
Yeah.
You would lean towards tight end over running back, correct?
Yeah, I think we can get a running back in the 5th that we'd really like.
I knew I liked you, James. All right, let's go tight end. Greg Dulcich, UCLA product. He could go earlier than what we just got him in, round 4. Some people think he might even be, one of the first tight ends called, which is kind of crazy to think. None of the players that we were talking about went off the board here. We have round 4, and we could go ahead and get Alontae Taylor if you want to do that.
Yeah, that'd be my pick at 117. Believe he ran also in the 4.3s at the combine, so he's got great speed. He can play man coverage, very good in zone coverage. Can tackle, and he is one of those guys, character-wise, that he has the ability to, I don't want to say change anything, but be a part of the culture difference that's about to happen or is happening. He would be all in there in terms of just being a guy who's going to work really hard, always plays 100 miles an hour. And I think he would definitely contribute big time on special teams to start his career, if it's not, in the secondary as well, which around this fourth round, you're starting to look at, okay, who can contribute right away in some form or fashion. And I think him, in the special teams room, he'll give something to us right away to contribute to the football team. So I would make Alontae Taylor the pick. I think he's a bit of a big time sleeper in this entire draft.
Yeah, and this is also the range that I think the Jets will be looking for a cornerback. As much as we talk about Ahmad Gardner, I do feel strongly they're probably not going to make him the pick. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that they couldn't, but I just feel like this is also where they're going to be looking for a corner. So I'm going to go ahead and make Alontae Taylor a New York Jet. And we are down to our last two. I got D-Man all hyped up. He is the exclamation king. This man, he throws in exclamations like he's slapping like a stack of money. He doesn't give two hoots. Thank you, D-Man. I'm very excited as well for the draft. Just think, next time, in a week or so, we're going to be literally like 10 days away. So super exciting times for us as fans. Let's go ahead and let's see who's available for this 5th round pick. We got 2 5th round picks left. I do think we should try to find an interior defensive lineman and a running back. Defensive lineman wise, Otito Ogbonnia. I've read a little bit about him, and he could be interesting here. Running back, we got Jerome Ford, Hassan Haskins. I know a lot of people really like Jerome Ford. I don't know if he is the physical back that I kind of want. So Hassan Haskins could make a lot of sense here. Wide receiver.
And Bo Melton is a interesting name there, but
yeah, I don't know. All right, I am leaning towards the. You got to take your cornerback. I'm gonna take the running back that I want, and we could probably get him at the next 5th. But I feel like I don't really like a lot of these names. Like, I'm looking around here, and usually there's a bunch of dudes that I'm like, oh yeah, we can get a running back in the 5th, but it's kind of thinned out quite a bit at this point. I do not want anything to do with Pierre Strong Jr. He's like 25 years old or something, and a million touches in college football. Jerome Ford would be a really good scheme fit, and I think that, if we didn't already have somebody like Michael Carter on the team, I would say maybe he would be the pick. But I think that you're trying to get somebody that can convert on these short yardage situations, and Hassan Haskins is exactly that. And Jaime is agreeing with me. Ford or Haskins. Phillips too. I don't see a Phillips. Who's Phillips? Who are you talking about, Grant Rude? I don't know who you're talking about. We already took a tight end. We took Greg Dulcich. Here, let me show you the mock draft so far. We've taken an edge, a wide receiver, a linebacker, safety, offensive tackle, and a tight end, and our cornerback, Alontae Taylor.
I like that a lot.
I do too, man. I feel like, again, when you're talking about this part of the draft, we're trying to find guys that are depth, future pieces, and I feel like we've hit a couple right here, back to back to back, with the cornerback, the tight end, and the offensive tackle. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make Mr. Hassan Haskins our pick at 146. I feel like, and we're hearing about Kyle Phillips, the wide receiver from UCLA. Thank you very much. I am not as savvy as you guys. I am going to make Mr. Hassan Haskins the pick, though. Feel like you're getting a guy that can really help Michael Carter and help our offense to convert. We sucked on 3rd down last year. We were bottom 5 in the NFL. We were terrible in the red zone. We need to improve in both of those categories, and getting somebody for situational reps, I think, is very, very important, and I think he would be good at it. Jose Torres with the explicit comment. I'm not going to put that on the screen. Let's just say he'd be excited. All right. I like the balance of this draft. Yeah, that's what we're trying for here a little bit. All right, let's take a look at the big board one last time. We can't take a tight end. We can't take a running back. Are you seeing any names here that are jumping off the screen? Bo Melton, you mentioned earlier. I'm okay with getting another wide receiver, actually.
Yeah, Bo Melton would be a nice value pick here. Kalen Barnes, I mean, he's a corner, but I
Yeah.
think he's the one that blazed the 40 at the combine, I think. um, Tyreek Smith was an interesting one. He's an edge out of Ohio State. He'd be a decent value pick at this point in time. Add another one to the edge group, but I think we got kind of quite a few situational guys. Still Bryce Huff there, and now Jacob Martin and things like that. So I mean, Bo Melton, definitely an interesting name here at 163 for sure.
So I created a poll, and it's gonna be these two wide receivers. I feel like we did get Jamison Williams, but we need another guy. Um, he will probably need a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it ends up being. You know, if he misses a couple of games, it would be nice to have another guy in there
Yeah.
competing. So I threw in Bo Melton and Kyle Phillips. I didn't include Barnes. I'm sorry, Frank Pagan. Did you really love Barnes? Let me see. Where is he? Who's
I think
Barnes?
he may be the corner for Baylor.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're pretty stacked up at cornerback right now. Bryce
Yeah.
Hall. We signed DJ Reed. We have the kid. Oh, shoot, my recall here is terrible. Brandon Eccles,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they like Brandon Eccles quite a bit. We also drafted Alante Taylor in this draft, so I feel like we're pretty deep at the corner spot. I don't know if we're taking another one here in this draft.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The overwhelming vote getter is Mr. Melton. So I am going to make Bo a New York Jet. And now I'm
Bo.
going to thank you all. I'm going to thank everybody that was in this stream. And if you're watching this or if you're listening to this after the stream has ended, I just want to again thank you guys so much for everything. Any last words you want to throw out there, James, before we put a bow on this show?
No, it was another good night, and we're getting closer to this being the real thing. So if something like this kind of rolls out on draft weekend, I think we'd be pretty excited. We got a lot of dynamic talent in here that can do a bunch of different things. So that's what I think the Jets should be really looking for.
Kev Chata throws in one little dagger. He says that Alante Taylor will be 24 in December, and actually Jermaine Johnson will be.
Yeah,
I think he's 23 already right now, and will
that's
be
correct.
turning 24 later in the season. Age is definitely a factor. There's no doubt about it. I think it's more so with certain positions. Running back would be one of them specifically. I'm not going to touch a running back that's 24 years old. No offense to those guys, but Liberal Irishman, he says, great show, guys. Good night. And with that being said, I'm going to wish you all a great night as well. We will be live again in just a couple of days. Jets Talk 24/7 is going to join the channel on Wednesday night. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Thank you so much for watching. Go Jets. Have an awesome night and peace, guys.